It's notable that no information has been released on exactly which experts looked at and concluded that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is suffering brain damage. The Pentagon also won't comment on whether proof of KSM having brain damage would cause the government to drop the death penalty. In a military decision to abandon a capital case, it can be made by the prosecutor, the judge, or a jury made up of U.S. military officers. Martha.
Great, fascinating background, Trace. Thank you very much. So my next guest, Dr. James Mitchell, interrogated KSM for the CIA and detailed all of those encounters in his book, Enhanced Interrogation, which is a fascinating read, and he joins me now. Dr. Mitchell, good to have you back on the program tonight. When I read this report, I was stunned. After all of these years, they are now going to claim that he has brain damage at the hands of the CIA?
Well, nothing his attorneys do surprises me. Basically, it's obvious that he's guilty. Everybody knows that he's guilty. And I know it's flippant to say that, but it's true. And now they're just looking for some way to save his life. So we have to step back and ask ourselves, what is their motivation? Well, their motivation, obviously, is to prep the battlefield, to make this legal battlefield, to make him appear a victim, to make it appear like he's more human, and to set the grounds for some kind of plea agreement that doesn't involve the death penalty.
All right, so you interrogated him, you waterboarded him with others in the room, and you walled him, which is that process of slamming him against the wall. Do you...
Whoa, stop that. Stop that. Don't even say that. We did not slam his head.
Correct me. Explain walling.
We did not slam his head against the wall. You know, and that's the thing that gets repeatedly said. And in fact, he was walled no harder than we wall our own soldiers. And there were specifically things that were put in place by the CIA to ensure that the kind of head damage that he's alleging couldn't have occurred. And let me just kind of go through that. There was a special collar that was wrapped around his neck to specifically prevent his head from hitting the wall and to stop whiplash. In addition to that, he was evaluated by physicians when he arrived at the site, before the interrogations, during the interrogations, I mean immediately after interrogations if they look particularly harsh, routinely during his stay there, when he was prepared to leave to go to another site, and immediately on arrival to the new site. So there was plenty of opportunity. And I would point out to your viewers that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other people who destroyed 3,000 Americans and many, many others around the country, including dismembering Daniel Pearl just because he was Jewish, received better medical care than our veterans, with less wait time, by the way, and better medical care than the average American. I just don't buy this idea that he's suffering from some kind of a brain damage.
And as you point out, you all painstakingly documented and did scans and took measures to make sure that this didn't happen to him. Do you have, is there any question?
I don't know if they did MRI. I don't know if they did MRIs, but the point is that they had physicians observe, in addition to the evaluations, they had physicians observing the interrogations whose primary task was to prevent that kind of damage from happening as a result of, they could stop the interrogations at any point, and at one time stopped an interrogation because the detainee's feet were swollen.
Yeah. You know, as you point out, this is not a person who cared when he killed thousands of American citizens, and now they're fighting to save his life. And I'm sure you're right that they are just trying to sort of pepper the ground and humanize him in some way. But you make it very clear that you say that if there's any brain damage in his brain, you know, it didn't come from anything that you folks did.
Well, what we have to keep in mind is that he was a jihadist who fought in jihadi battles for years before he was detained by the CIA. His interrogations took place in 2 months, March and April of 2003. It's been 15 years. We have no idea what kind of activities he's been involved in since he left CIA custody and went to Guantanamo, or what sort of toxins he was exposed to when he was running around Afghanistan and Sudan and Pakistan and other places. I find it amazing that anyone would think that an MRI could specify that a combatant who had been involved in military received it specifically in some period of months.
Dr. James Mitchell, fascinating. Thank you so much.